Hey everybody, welcome back to our 5th episode of the podcast. I actually have video this time. You can actually see us.
And no wind.
Yep, no wind. So this is our 5th episode, the collaboration between the Veritas Project with founder of the Veritas Project, Robert Curtis.
That's me.
And also investigator Todd Boyer. And welcome.
Yeah.
Bob, I have to say I love that shirt. That is very festive. That is a very festive Halloween
I broke
shirt.
it out because it's our Halloween episode. So
yes, we're going to discuss the history of Halloween, kind of where it started, which aspects got picked up when, talking about costumes and everything.
Yeah.
So, over the years, how the costumes have changed. You want to start us off?
Yeah. What are we going to talk about first?
Well, just the origins. Yeah, we talk about how long ago the origins and.
Well, the Samhain, everyone says Samhain because that's what it looks like.
Right.
But in Gaelic, it's actually Samhain. It's All Saints' Day, so it's the day before Saints' Day. So it's Sow of Saints, and then Win.
Right.
It means
but the All Saints'
Samhain.
Day name actually came later.
Yeah.
So, but yeah, it was
the end of the harvest period and the beginning of winter. So it was like a celebration to say, yeah, we made it. We didn't die this year. So
and it was they'd light bonfires and whatnot to ward off ghosts and evil spirits.
Right.
Because they believed that was the day that the veil between the living and the dead was at the thinnest.
Right.
So, it became a kind of a day to scare things away rather than to be scary itself.
Yeah.
And then, but they believed that the ghosts and things like that could help them, discern the future.
Right. That your relatives who were passed on could give you advice to help you have a better life because they've already ended theirs, And they thought that the veil between the living and the dead was the thinnest on Halloween. So that way even people who weren't impressionable or didn't have any psychic ability could still converse with the dead or at least hear them, and that ask them a question, get a response type of scenario.
So then, like, the Romans kind of got influenced into it, and then
like everything.
Like everything else. And that was roughly between like 43 AD and 410 AD.
Yeah.
I'll let you go ahead and hit a couple of those points. So,
what did we? Oh, the Feralia. The Romans like to name things weird, like Lupercalia,
right.
Saturnalius. They love to have a weird thing that modern people can't say. But I guess it was all Greek to them, right?
Exactly.
But that was their ceremony to honor the dead for that year. So they would have a big festival and. And
it was also like their New Year at the same time.
Right.
So
they would say like, this is everyone who died last year, and then we're starting over with a new year. There's all sorts of new diseases that'll kill everyone. So
once again it was like bonfires and feasts and dancing and celebration and it definitely still wasn't anything close to the modern Halloween. I mean it was just imagine going out in the field with your buddies and starting a bonfire and sitting around and talking and listening to music. And it was basically just what a lot of people do, honestly, on Halloween now. I mean, if you take away all the trick-or-treating and the costumes and stuff, they would just make it a big feast and a celebration of life and death. And like I said, it was their New Year, so it was a 2-in-1.
Yeah.
So that would make it even better.
There was a way to get rid of the things that the person who died had too. So, like their bedding and their stuff that they didn't need anymore because they'd passed away, you'd burn all of that stuff so it can go with them into the next life, or just to be rid of it, I guess.
Right. and so those ghostly traditions that came from the original, I mean, they still stuck there. They still believed it was the time of the thinnest of the veil.
Right.
So you still got, and they would dress kind of as spirits to kind of blend in with the spirits they believed that were in the area.
Yeah.
So you did start to get the dressing up of the Halloween.
Right, they wear robes and things like that to the bonfire.
So also, the Romans, they were big military too. So
Yeah.
that was,
That's how they conquered so much.
Yeah.
Right.
So that's why these became really, really huge, almost like a festival.
Yeah.
Because you had these big giant armies that would go out and celebrate this. So that's what kind of turned it from being like small groups doing it to very large groups. You figure you had these really large armies out there having these celebrations.
Yeah.
We're talking 10,000 men or, even more having these big celebrations. And,
Right.
and that's kind of how it progressed from something smaller into something larger.
And the Romans would like to take local traditions where they were garrisoned at and then incorporate that into their religion and their tradition, so that way it'd be easier to teach the illiterate masses, like, well, yeah, now Saturnalia or Lupercalia or whatever is going to be Valentine's Day,
Right.
know? So it was easier to get the locals on board with your new religion if it wasn't really that new. It was just a different word for the thing that they already had.
So. Right, but they also think that that's also where the bobbing for apples came from. Pomona, the goddess of fruit, her symbol was an apple, so they think that's where the origins of the bobbing for apples came from on Halloween.
Yeah.
So, well, that covers pretty much most of the Roman. That was from, like I said, 530 AD to 410 AD. And then we started moving into the changes that the Christian influence had on Halloween, and that kind of started right around the 9th century. And now we're talking All Saints Day.
Right.
So that's where we get into that.
They had the line, you had your Halloween, and then you started on to the All Saints Day, where the year started over again. So with Pope Gregory III, was it, that made the chapel, St. Peter's Basilica. So they what do you call it when they open it up? They dedicated it on November 1st. So that's why this is All Saints Day, right? So you worship all of your saints on November 1st.
Right, and this was the time that, all the holy wars were happening, and the Christians were really spreading out, and their influence was really going across the world, and it started getting into the regions that had the, Celtic or Celtic background, however you want to pronounce it. Yeah. It started getting into those regions, and that's how the Christianity part came about on top of it.
Right.
So that's where it started to really merge and mold, with the All Saints Day.
Yeah. And then you had the Spanish traditions of Dia de los Muertos, right?
Yeah.
The Day of the Dead.
Yeah.
Right. So in Christianity, it was November 2nd. It was All Souls Day. Right. So you had your Halloween, your All Saints Day, and then All Souls Day. So that way you can kind of have an umbrella over all of the other, emerging Spanish traditions too. So the Spaniards could easily, fall into that.
Right. And then they started doing like, it was like a public harvest event, right?
Mm-hmm.
Mark the harvest and all that. But they started doing like play parties to celebrate, and then also they would tell ghost stories.
Yeah.
I mean, that was a big thing, was telling ghost stories and getting scared. And that's where a lot of the haunted, spooky stuff really started coming into play.
Right. All Hallows Eve.
Yeah, All Hallows Eve. That's... What do you think with, going... I'm going to derail a little bit. I'm good at that. What do you think about cemeteries itself? I mean, because the cemeteries are more of a Christian thing, right? Because, all the other things which we're actually going to... In a future podcast, we're actually going to discuss the burial, traditions of different cultures and stuff.
Right.
But what do you think about, I know a lot of people do investigations in cemeteries. What do you think of that?
I think that's kind of foolish, really. I understand, that some people hang out, with their grave, or that grave is like the connection to them, like you can go to the grave to ask because that's where their body is, really.
Right.
But I think most spirits don't hang out in the cemetery.
Yeah, I was thinking that myself, and I've been seeing here lately, especially with Halloween coming on, on different social media platforms, I'm seeing a lot of other investigation groups in cemeteries, and to me, it's not a big thing. I like to go to cemeteries for the the aesthetics of the monuments.
Yeah.
Because
there's a lot of history there.
like some of the older monuments, like 13 feet tall monuments that are like intricately carved
with all the different symbols and
stuff. And just I saw one the other day that was from like 1937 and it looked brand new.
Yes,
it looked exactly the same as you would find a brand new headstone, like the shape and the cut and everything. But then right next to it was a stone, more of a taller monument from 22 that had a lot of wear, but it was very, very intricately carved. Some moss was growing in every little nook and cranny. But it was beautiful. So yeah, I'm sorry, I always get off the the track.
Yeah,
but
to go back to the Day of the Dead, Dia de los Muertos, people would go to the cemetery and leave a trail of flowers from their loved one's grave to their house, so that way their family members could come and visit over All Hallows Eve.
So it's not such a scary thing to them. Like we've turned it into like this big frightening thing, where everybody wants to get scared this time of year.
Yeah, they would bake bread. The Pan de los Muertos they would leave out for their relatives.
Yeah. So like in the 17th and 18th, Halloween in colonial America, 17th, 18th century, that's when they were also doing the harvest festivals and, the ghost stories and autumn festivals became a big thing right around the same time. So they kind of merged those celebrations. Right. Right. And they did, ghost stories, fortune telling, that kind of stuff. But unfortunately, right around that time things went sideways and you have the witch hunts and so it's like what do you guys want? Do you want witch hunts or do you want a scary Halloween? How do you want to do this?
Well, the witch hunts got out of control until they accused the governor's wife of being a witch, and then it's miraculous how it just shut down right now.
No, what? No way.
She's a witch. Also I have an army, so
right. I have a garrison of men behind me.
Yeah.
You know what I forgot? I forgot to welcome them all to the Linen Library here at the Curtis Mansion.
Have many fine books. they smell like mahogany. What is it? What is it? The
leather.
It smells like leather and mahogany.
Yeah. But sorry about that.
These are expensive books.
Yeah, you could see them waving in the background. So let's talk about the legend of the jack-o'-lantern.
Okay.
So legend is a guy named Jack, ended up tricking the devil multiple times.
Multiple times. He was kind of cheeky.
He actually, believe it or not, the first jack-o'-lanterns were made of turnips.
Yeah, that's what they used to do.
So it's easier they weren't pumpkins.
They didn't have pumpkins over there, so they didn't know.
Yeah, you got to think of turnips only this big too, like the size of a softball. So,
old Jack climbed up a tree. And he told the devil that he would have a tree climbing contest with him. You go up the tree and come back down. The first one to do it, wins. Well, when the devil climbed up the tree, he put salt around the bottom of the tree so the devil couldn't come down. He's like, "Ha ha! I won, sucker."
So that and that comes from the same area as Halloween originated. So the Irish immigrants brought that with them to the New World and. Like Bob said, it's easier to carve a pumpkin than it is to carve a turnip.
Right.
So that's the pumpkins kind of, especially now with the way, original pumpkins don't look anything like they do now.
Yeah, they were smaller.
They were like a gourd. They're more of a gourd.
Yeah.
With crossbreeding and stuff like that, we've got
hybridized them into these gigantic things the size of a Volkswagen now.
Right. Literally. Some of those things weigh like 1,000 pounds.
Yeah.
So that they got into the pumpkin carving, as this tradition, They also they're supposed to symbolize a soul that was denied entry into both heaven or hell, which, aka ghosts stuck here on the earth.
That's what happened to
Jack. When you guys are carving your pumpkins, remember that's what those symbolize is an actual soul that is stuck here on earth.
Well, and one of the other Irish traditions was you would take your jack-o'-lantern, the turnip, to the bonfire, and then you would take an ember from the bonfire that you were just celebrating, put it in your turnip, take it home with you, and then you would keep that fire going all winter long. using that turnip, and then that was supposed to be good luck for your family, you know, from that, that ember.
And that's
came
where the
from
whole
bonfire.
flame inside the turnip was like the whole jack-o'-lantern. And so
you'd have that fire going all year round.
So the way they believed, you know, with costumes, they believed that the costumes, you know, originally costumes were scary costumes. Like none of this other stuff. It was all, you know, ghosts and demons and that, because you were disguising yourself to blend in with the ghosts and the monsters that were out. Well, mostly the ghost. I mean, it was the ghosts were the biggest thing. So you were disguising yourself to be one of these ghosts so that you wouldn't get harmed on that night.
Right.
So that's where the costumes come from.
Right.
So, you know, they called it guising.
Yeah.
Guising. Sorry.
Taking on the
popped in there.
The guise of the monsters.
And then the trick or treat, the tradition of trick or treat was, you know, you were appeasing these ghosts that came to your house, but the ghosts had to perform for you. So that's why it's, you know,
right.
the way it is, you know, tell a joke or whatever
or something. Yeah.
So if you go to these houses and they're asking your kids to do something, they are still celebrating old traditions.
That Celtic tradition, yeah.
So, you know, don't be upset when somebody asks your kid to tell them a joke or something, because they're really doing it old school.
Right, that's how the tradition was.
So yeah, and then, you know, so back then, of course, it was dried fruit and things like that, you know.
Yeah, if you want to see some of those, you can look up my Pinterest. It's Vintage Halloween is the board, and I have a whole collection of weird vintage Halloween costumes on there. It looks awesome. Some of them you'd probably get arrested if you were wearing them. They were pretty spooky back then.
You know, and well, obviously, you know, they didn't have like pre-made costumes either.
No,
I mean, these were handmade,
paper
mache wood. Some of that stuff, just even from like the 50s, were just, I mean,
potato sacks,
freaky looking stuff. Yeah. I mean, with the paper mache and stuff. Yeah. I mean,
it's awesome.
Yeah, take a minute and look that up. You know. So obviously, as we got more into it, as you know, as it got more Americanized, you know, it changed into what it's kind of become now with you know, candy and
commercialization,
you know, the commercialization of it. You'll still find these great festivals, you know, that will celebrate. And I know there's even churches out there now. It's kind of funny that churches out there now will do Halloween celebrations, you know, just to get the bad stuff out of it, rather than, you know,
hand out candy
and that kind of stuff. So yeah, so also think about the difference between the way the costumes were then, as far as what was portrayed in the costumes, compared to now. Now it's, you know,
superhero, Barbie or something.
Something
back
like
then
that.
It was demons.
It was always
monsters,
scary demons and stuff like that.
And,
you know, and then as it became more Americanized, now you've got Halloween cards and, you know,
Halloween specials. It's the Great Pumpkin, Charlie Brown.
Your wife, man, that's a girl that loves Halloween.
Yeah, she goes all out.
She goes all out. They actually have a, what do you call it, with the 30 days, kind of an Advent.
Yeah.
They have this Advent haunted house.
Yeah.
And they pick a theme, and this year is
ghosts.
Last year it was what?
Vampires.
So they pick a theme, and they pick 30 movies, and they mix them up, and they put one in a piece of candy for each of them.
In each of the boxes.
And every night they open up one of the boxes, watch whatever movie is on there, and have their piece of candy.
Yeah.
So your Halloween does start October 1st.
31 days of Halloween.
Yep. So yeah.
It's fun.
So, do you remember, I just saw a meme the other day that says Gen X knows what this smells like, and it showed a bunch of kids sitting in a classroom with the old school Halloween mask. They had the one strip of, you know, the plastic mask that would crack like if you touched it too hard.
The little,
you know, and the paper thin, costumes.
Originally, when I was little, it was like silk almost, upper part, and then the bottom part was like polyvinyl. And then towards the end of the 70s, then they were all like a PVA type plastic. Yeah, now they don't even. Now they're all cloth and.
Oh yeah, ridiculousness.
They look fantastic. You're like, man, I had like a picture of Chewbacca on the thing. It was brown. And that was your costume.
Well, I mean, she's got dressing up to an art. You know what I mean?
Yeah, that's
like,
fun.
And it's just so all that stuff kind of evolved from the Halloween and the dressing up and all that kind of stuff and dressing up like our favorite characters. You know, and like we said, now you have the TV shows and the films and the stuff like that. So, think I should tell them what happened to you last night?
Yeah, go ahead.
Okay, so
stuff. Talking about ghost stuff.
So, the more I do this stuff, the more stuff likes to come to my house, and I usually can get rid of it or whatever. So last night I was doom scrolling on one of the apps. And I caught movement out of my eye. Now, literally, here's my phone. I could see my doorway is literally to the right of my phone in the background. I was laying in bed. And an apparition walked in front of my bedroom door. And I am the biggest skeptic. You can ask Bob. Like, if it don't freaking walk like a duck and talk like a duck, I don't care if it walks like a duck. If it doesn't quack, it's not a duck. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
So this thing... I froze. I froze in bed. I've been on hundreds of investigations. You just don't expect this crap in your own house. And I don't know if I told you guys, but I know I've told Bob and a few other people that lately here I've been feeling bumps on my bed that I think I have a cat, and I think it's my cat jumping up on the bed. But I've come to realize that when she jumps up on the bed, I don't feel it.
Yeah.
Like... You know, she lands so soft, I don't feel it. Now, sometimes when she jumps down, when she pushes off, I do feel it a little bit. But, you know, lately I've been getting those bumps on my bed, and she's sleeping. Like, she has a spot that she has a little blanket. She sleeps right up by my pillow. She'll be laying there sleeping. But then this last night, this apparition, and I was like, okay, could it be a car light from outside? Could it be this? Could it be that? And I got up and I looked for a long time, probably a good 15, 20 minutes, half hour, just to try to figure out if there was something other than what I saw. It was about a foot below the doorway, like the top of it. Mm-hmm. And it was, I mean, I could almost like close my eyes and see it. It was almost a tannish white. And it was more of an outline rather than a full body. It was, the front of the outline was heavier, and the back of the outline was thinner as it walked across from my left to right, and down my hallway at a decent clip. And I was like, wow, what the heck? And then I thought, well, car headlights, right? Car going by through the window, headlights. But where the light hit, there's nothing. Yeah. Like, it's open air. Like, where this thing walked is open air. There was no place for the car headlight to reflect off of, to light up. There was nothing there. And it just walked right across my bedroom door. Then, of course, I got up and like, you know, you don't belong here. This is my house. You need to leave. You know, and that's what you have to do. You have to be assertive and
set up boundaries.
Set boundaries and try to get it out. And, you know, I had someone offer to smudge, and I may take them up on that offer. You know, just to be safe. So yeah, that's the problem with doing paranormal investigations and stuff. Is sometimes stuff will follow
you home. Yeah.
You know, and even like we haven't even really done a good investigation since we started doing the podcast. Yeah, not really. But I've been frequenting some more cemeteries for my TikToks and stuff like that. Yeah. So I'm thinking maybe something followed me home out of somewhere that I've been. You know. Who knows? Yeah, sorry, got way off, but it's ghost season.
It's that time of year, right?
So what we want from you guys is we want your stories. You know, tell us what happened to you guys. Hit us up on email. Will we be able to add those at the end this time? So what we're going to do is we're going to add our socials and our emails and stuff at the end of this video. Mm-hmm. Hit us up. You know, we want to hear your stories, and we were discussing maybe even the possibility of going out in the field somewhere where there's a lot of foot traffic and just sit down and have people tell us their stories.
Yeah, tell us your ghost stories.
You know, and
you can email it or direct message or anything.
Yep. And if we decide to go out in public and do this, we'll actually record them and we will bring them to you, because we'll actually interview the people that that were asking about the stories, and we'll bring those stories to you guys.
Yeah.
So, working on it, trying to get out there.
Trying to
grassroots, baby.
Our scope. Yeah, right.
We are grassroots right now.
Yeah, we got what 20, 21 followers now.
On yours, I have 3 on mine. We actually now we are posting the podcast on both Bob's YouTube and my YouTube to get the growth out there.
Yeah, it's a collaboration,
Yep.
So it's a two-way street there.
So we're trying to get out there as one way or the other.
Right.
Making TikToks and did I tell you my boss saw my TikTok?
No. Really?
So I got called out in our Friday meeting. I logged in. It's a Teams meeting. Mm-hmm. I logged in, and my boss said, "Hey there, Investigator Todd." And I was like, "Did I log in with the long email address?" I'm like, "Oh, what did I do here?" I'm like, "Hey, what's up?" And I'm like, "My bad. Did I log in wrong email address?" And he's like, "Oh no." And so then he called me later and said, "I was doom scrolling TikTok and you popped up." And I was like, "That is awesome."
That's neat. Yeah.
So I guess people pop up.
Right. Organics, I guess.
Organic. So, like I said, go check out our socials. Send us what you guys think. Honestly, once America kind of took over Halloween, there's not a whole lot to go. I mean, it globally spread, but it became so commercial once it hit America. I mean, that's about the gist of it.
Like everything.
Pre-made costumes and all that stuff. It takes the fun out.
Barbie and Superman and Batman and everything. It got away from its tradition. And
then of course now you got the horror films and all that kind of stuff. So it's all about the spooky season now. But go check out the socials. We want your comments. Do us a favor. If you have one friend that you think that would be interested in our podcast, please send it to them. They might enjoy it. You might be, and you're helping us out. You'll get some really cool podcast information if you subscribe to us.
It's not just that stuff too. You got, UFOs or cryptids, any stories you got. We'll take it all.
Because we're going to cover everything. We're not just a one-trick pony here.
That's just the ghost channel that does just ghosts all the time. That's not our. We're not pigeonholed into that one thing. We do a lot of stuff. And
I want to let you guys know that we're not your typical ghost channel that you see out there. We are not going to put on this fancy show. If we do an investigation, because like I said, we may have that investigation coming up that I told you about.
Yeah.
We are not going to be, "Oh, Bob, did you hear? Oh,
right.
Oh." No, that's not us. That is not us. We are legit ghost hunters.
Right.
We're not here for
science.
We are the science, we're not here to for the entertainment.
You won't see a thumbnail of us like these other idiots on YouTube. No, that won't happen.
So if you want the legitimacy, and learn how to use the equipment and
the scientific method as it applies to ghost hunting. It's hard to apply the scientific method to something that's vaporeal, that kind of comes and goes, It's hard to explain to, like my father-in-law is a scientist, and it was hard to explain to him how the spirit box works when, you can't get a direct response. It's kind of, it comes and goes on their end too, so they're kind of giving you like the impression of what the answer is sometimes instead of the direct answer of what it is. So it's more open to interpretation, but there's still science there.
Right. So. And like I said, I'm a huge skeptic, and that stuff's really got to slap me in the face to see it. Like, I'm telling you what, last night was freaky. I'm sorry, it just blew my mind.
Well, I tell you my haunted artifact, the radio. World War II radio, when I had it in my house, the same sort of things would happen. You'd see like these tendrils of like almost like an octopus like tentacle would come out around the door, and it was like a dark shadow, and then you'd go in there and you could just see it like there was like a shadow behind it.
Once again, check us out on all the social medias. Investigator Todd for all of mine, the Veritas Project for all of Bob's. Thank you for joining us again, and remember
to stay curious.
That's right. Find the truth. And we will catch you next time Send us an idea. Let us know what you
Yeah.
guys are thinking we should do. We always kind of choose something, the week after or right after we finish. We kind of choose what we're going to do next week. But send us some. Give us some ideas. Like I said, we're getting old. Our brains are falling apart here. So, and we thank you guys for being here, and we will catch you next time.
Yeah.